We could look at what we did, and this is my favourite, but it's only my favourite. We could look at what we did when we, and by that I mean Britain, not just the Conservatives, but we, Britain, knew that we couldn't afford the costs of everybody's old age. It was impossible. We knew the state pension was never going to be able to do it all. So we said, right, okay, it's got to be a partnership. So that word wasn't in use in those days like it is now, but that's effectively what we decided, partnership. Employers must set up pension schemes and must pay into them. And if they do that, we'll give them tax relief, because we're very grateful. And employees must pay in towards their own pensions. And if they do that, we'll give them tax relief, because we're very grateful. And we, the state, will continue, not only with the tax relief, but with the state pension, so that that will always be a part of people's retirement income. And the net result of that was that until the Gordon Brown raid in 1997, we had the most sustainable pension system over decades under successive governments of both parties. We had the most sustainable pension system in all of the Western world. And we had it because the pot was much larger and the benefits therefore were much greater. Now, as I say, if an employer says, I'm going to set up a pension scheme for my employees, we say, thank you, have some tax relief. Supposing the same employer says, I'm going to set up a health scheme for my employees. We don't even stay neutral. We say, how dare you? What we're going to do is actually tax you on that health scheme as if it was salary, and you will pay us. And what's more, if your employees are contributing towards the scheme, we're going to tax them as well, as if it was salary. So there's actually a penalty for people trying to contribute towards their own health. There's an actual penalty there, if it's done in any organised fashion. And I think we might look at the model that we had for pensions, which was that partnership, to get the pot much bigger, to get everybody's benefits much greater. But in the end, I do not mind which system we select, as long as it's one that's going to see the end of this century. And the one we've got at the moment, forget it, folks, it's not going to. We may be dodging it, we may be terrified of saying it, but it's not going to last. It's no longer viable.
Okay, could I have an indication now of who wants to ask a question, and then I'll time the rest of the meeting so we can try and get everybody. So, let's see. Right, six people. Okay, so, right, we'll start at the back, and then, no, yes.
Gentlemen, are we doing? The
Yes,
gentlemen? Yeah.
yes, that's right, and then we'll go upstairs.
And then we'll later. Yeah.
Okay, my question is, when you're talking about capital yacht culture,
Yes.
you mentioned, you gave quite a detailed answer, but one of your main recommendations was dealing with drugs,
Yes.
which isn't a significantly less complex issue. So how would you deal with drugs?
Okay, thank you. Drugs, the lady.
I just wondered, what do your constituents think about your TV work?
Sorry, what was that?
What do your constituents think about your TV work?
Right, okay, drugs and television. Yeah.
And lady.
Also, you mentioned that people say are quite sceptical towards politicians, so what would be the best solution to that?
Right, the best solution for scepticism is, as I say, you've got to offer difference so that people become interested, and then you've got to tell the truth, even if it's very hard. I actually said all the things I've said today about the health service in 1998 when I was Shadow Health Secretary, and my colleagues then had a collective fit, and they said, you're scared of horses, and not a single horse caught them. Because everybody knew that was the situation. They were longing to hear a politician discuss it. But the closer you get to an election, the less willing people are to take those sorts of risks. My constituents, what do they think of my television work? Some of them love it. Absolutely love it. Some of them don't like it because they don't think it's what I should be doing. And then I write back and I explain to them what I've explained to you. And I say, well, you know, if you want my voice to be heard, this is actually one very effective way of doing it. Now, drugs, which was the crucial one of those three. I believe very, very strongly that you have to have a policy on drugs that goes all the way from the large-scale importers down to the small-scale consumer of soft drugs. You need a comprehensive policy. It's no good saying, we'll do this, but we'll ignore that. And one of the problems police have no proportionate response to it. It is still the case that you can be arrested for small amounts of soft drugs, and if you are, it is still the case that theoretically you face a prison sentence. In reality, that's not what's going to happen. In reality, the court's going to impose a fine. And the policeman knows that if he gets bogged down in small-scale possession, he's got to go back and he's got to do all that voluminous paperwork for a court hearing. If he only gives a formal caution, he's got voluminous paperwork. If he only stops and searches, he's got to fill in a form and hand it to us. And on the whole, the police say that's completely disproportionate. We haven't got time to do that. But the small-scale consumer is keeping a dealer in business, because an awful lot of dealers are relying on small-scale consumers. And the dealer who is dealing soft drugs is very unlikely only to be dealing soft drugs. He will also be dealing hard, and he's being kept in business. So I feel that what we've got to do is to say, right, what can the police do? My answer to that is what they're now beginning to use quite widely for a range of offences, which is fixed penalty fines. Because that's what the court does in the end anyway, it imposes a fine. So fixed penalty fines, which you can issue on the spot. And it is done, and it is dealt with. And yes, you will still have some paperwork, but at least it won't be 7 hours worth back at the police station. So that's what I think should happen. To send out a signal which says, actually, society isn't going to tolerate this, but we need more than just that. We need, this is one where we should copy exactly what Giuliani did. Because what Giuliani did, right, he said, there's a dealer. Everybody knows where the dealers are. There's a dealer. Go in and take him out. What happens? He's replaced immediately. Go in and take out the replacement. He's replaced. Go in and take out the replacement. The average number of times they had to do that was 6 or 7. And suddenly the message went out, it's too hot, don't bother on that estate. Or block, as they call them that. Don't bother on that block. And if you have that sort of determined effort, you can clean areas, and you can make a big difference. I said right at the start, you can't eliminate it altogether, and you won't. But you can make a big difference, I'm sure.
Okay.
And the last thing.
Right, the last thing. Okay.
You've got 4 answers.
Right, okay, well, we'll take one in that case. Start here and then go on.
Right. A British what, sorry? Oh, British discuss.
I didn't know it was right, but I mean, so,
I'm sorry about that.
I was wondering, because I have a lot of information and the questions they're asking you are really represent what it's like to work with. So I was just wondering what your opinion is on the virtue stuff.
I've got to be absolutely honest, I haven't gone on to the internet and taken it. I probably should have done. All I can promise you is I will look it up.
Okay.
Oh, well, I don't fail. Okay, I'll take that one. Election. Next one.
As an knowledge on business,
Yes.
what's your view on the fact that
Right, general election, early release.
I just wondered, since Tony Blair seems to have been appropriate, convert Catholicism only after
He hasn't done it yet.
well, or he's getting there, and to do with the laws relating to who monarch can marry, to what degree the British establishment is tacitly sectarian.
Okay, right. So the first one was the placeless of the general election. My bones tell me it's not going to happen. Now, that's not particularly intellectual, and it's not particularly rational.